Welcome back to One Code Camp channel. This is Justin. Today, we're going to build a simple flashcard quiz app using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This project is perfect for beginners who want to practice their front-end development skills. So let's get started. Before we dive into the code, let me give you a quick overview of what we're going to build. Our flashcard quiz app will display a question on one side of the card and the answer on the back. Users can flip the card, see answer, and move on to the next question by clicking the next button. To begin coding, all we need is a web browser, a text editor. In this tutorial, we'll be using Visual Studio Code, commonly known as VS Code. If you don't have it installed on your machine yet, you can find the link in the description below to download and set it up. Assuming you already have a project folder ready, start by creating an index.html file. To do that, click the New File button, type index.html. This file will serve as the foundation of our flashcard quiz app. Start by setting up the HTML structure. Let's add our boilerplate exclamation mark, pressing tab. Boilerplate provides the basic structure of an HTML document, including the doc type, HTML, and body tags, which are all essential for every HTML page. Once you have the boilerplate set up, you may open your file with Live Server to see your progress in real time. To do that, just right-click on your workspace and choose Open with Live Server. Let us change the title to Flashcard Quiz App. Now, inside our body tag, let's create a container div to hold flashcard buttons. To do that, let's type div, hit tab. This container div will have a class attribute assigned to flashcard container. Inside this container, we will add an h1 heading for our app's title and a div for the flashcard itself. Let's first add heading 1 and give it a title of Flashcard Quiz. And next, let's create a div for the flashcard itself. This div will have ID, which is an attribute that uniquely identifies an element. Set it to flashcard. And we also have class attribute. And let's also set it to flashcard. We will use this ID and class attributes later when we use this to target the element for the CSS and JavaScript. Inside the flashcard div, we'll have two sections. Front side for displaying the question, the back side showing the answer. Let's first create the front side. This will be a div with a class of front. Inside this div, let's create a paragraph tag. And the question will appear here. Let's give it an ID of question. Let's create back part. Create a div. Set it with an attribute as with the value of back. Again, let's add paragraph tag with an ID of answer. And our answers will appear here. Finally, let's add buttons below, one for flipping the card and another for the next question. To do that, let's add a button tag. This one is for flipping the card. Let's give it an ID, which is at the value of flip dash card. And let's create another button. Display the next question. Let's give it an ID of X dash card. And give it a value or content next. Now we have our HTML setup. We will then proceed our CSS. Let's style our application using CSS. To do so, create a new file and name it styles.css. Before we proceed with styling our CSS or our application, let's go back to our index.html and first link our CSS or HTML. To do so, we will use of the link tag, and for the href attribute, we will pass styles.css. Like so. With this line, we have successfully linked external CSS to our HTML. We can now proceed designing our index.html. CSS is composed of CSS selectors, which have property and value pairs inside its declaration. So to demonstrate that, let's start by styling the body. The body is an example of an element selector, and inside the open and close curly braces, we will have a list of key value pairs. So first, let's set the font family, which is the key, and give it a value of sans serif. I have a sans serif font, text clean and readable. We will set the display, justify content, and align item properties. So first, display, which has a value of flex, justify content, and assign it a value of center, and align items, and assign it a value of center. The display, justify content, align items are properties that are used to center the content both horizontally and vertically. It makes our app look neat on any screen size. Next, we will also set the height 100 VH. VH stands for vertical height or viewport height. So 100 VH actually means 100% of the viewport height. This ensures that the app picks up the full screen. Next, we will set the background property. Here, we will give it value of linear gradient, which actually takes up three values. So first, let's give it value of 135 degrees. And our first color, which is a shade of orange, F5E643. And another shade, which is a darker one, F09D77. The background property adds a diagonal gradient from orange to a lighter shade. It gives the app a vibrant and modern look. And then finally, let's set the margin to 0. overflow So I've removed the default margin and hidden any overflow, design, and centered. Next, we will design flashcard container. So the flashcard container is a class, as you can see here. It is a div with a class with the value of flashcard container. The target class, we prefix it with a dot and then the name of the class, which in our case is flashcard. So first, let's assign it value, or let's assign the property align with the value of center. So this container centers the content within the app and gives it a clean and card-like appearance. To provide that card-like appearance, let's set background color white. This makes the flashcard stands out against the other colorful background. Next, we will add a padding. The value of 40 pixels. We add a padding of 40 pixels for some breathing room inside the container. We also set the border radius. We will give it a value of 20 pixels. This border radius of 20 pixels rounds off the corners, making it smoother, while we will also add a box shadow and give it a value of 0, 10 pixels, and RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0. So this box shadow adds a subtle 3D effect, lift the container off the background slightly. And then next we will set the max width. 360 pixels. Add a margin bottom of 60 pixels. I've set the max width to 56 pixels, the side back, and ensure that it looks good on all screen sizes, and added the margin bottom of 60 pixels to avoid the container being too close to the bottom of the viewport. Next, we will target flashcard class. For the flashcard class, which styles our actual flashcard, we will set the width 9%. And the height 180 pixels. This gives the flashcard rectangular shape. Next, we will set the position to relative. The position relative allows us to position elements inside it, like the question and answer sides. Next, we will set the transform style. Serve 3D. This line actually enables 3D space for our flip animation, which is handled by the transition property. We will set it transform 0.6 seconds. Because I said this flip animation will be handled by the transition property. It smoothly rotates the card for 0.6 seconds. And finally, let's add a margin 0 case auto to improve the looks or the styles. Next, add the flip effect. We use the flip class. So when applied, this class rotates the card to 180 degrees on the y-axis. So let's first target the flashcard and then add flip and set the transform rotate by 180 degrees. Again, this class rotates the card 180 degrees on the y-axis, flipping it over to show the answer side. Next, let's target the flashcard or the divs inside the flashcard. Each side of the flashcard is tiled with the flash div selector. That's the answer and the question sides. So these are positioned absolutely. These are positioned absolutely within the flashcard container, and it will take up 100% of the width. And 70% of height. Next, we will set the back face visibility property hidden. So here in the slide, we actually hidden backside with the back face visibility property. So it only shows when the card is flipped. Next, let's set the border radius. Put 15 pixels. Let's also set background. Again, let's use a linear gradient for better design. Set this to 155 degrees. And I have a set colors here, which is F, 5F, 7F. And the next or the other color is C3C. A. Let's also add display text and add padding 20 pixels on all sides. The border radius, background, display, and padding properties ensure the content is centered and it looks smooth. So while the back shadow Let's add back shadow property. Set value of 0 for pixels, 8 pixels, and RGB 8. This shadow adds depth, and we'll also set font size (1.1 pm) for easy readability. Okay. So next, we'll target the back and set it to value of transform. Click to play. 180 degrees. Backslash rotates the back side of the card 180 degrees, aligning it with the flip effect. And then finally, we have the button styling. Again, this is an element selector. So buttons have a margin of 10 pixels. And we'll set padding 12 pixels on and bottom, and 25 pixels on left and right. We set the buttons have a margin of 10 pixels, and they are padded for a comfortable, clickable area. Then next, add a border equals to none to remove the border in the button, and then set border radius. Of 25 pixels. We'll also add background color. So here, the border radius, the vibrant orange background, which is set to the hexadecimal degree of FF57, makes them pop. Let's change the text color white, become more readable, and add the font size of 1.1 pm. Change the cursor to so every time we hover over the button, our cursor will become a pointer. And then add a transition property wherein we set our background color 0.3 seconds. Transform 0.2 seconds. Let's also add some pseudo classes for the button. Let's have the hover effect or button hover and change background color. Let's set it E64, E9, which is another or a darker shade of orange. And then let's add another pseudo class, which is active. And set it to transform, property transform, scale. 0.95. So we've added hover effect, darkens the background slightly, and an active state that scales the button down a bit for satisfying feedback. This creates a smooth, responsive user experience. So that's it for our CSS. This should give our Flashcard Quiz app a fun and interactive design, making it engaging for users. Let's take a look at the JavaScript that makes our Flashcard Quiz app interactive. So let's add a new file. We'll name it script.js. Before we proceed our JavaScript, let's first add a script tag, our HTML file. We'll put it at the bottom, it's above the body tag. In the script tag, we'll have a source attribute, wherein we will put the path for script.js. We can now proceed our JavaScript. We start by adding an event listener for the DOM content loaded event. To do that, by type document, then add event listener, parentheses, and then let's put inside DOM content loaded. This will also take another function. Alright, so this event listener ensures that our JavaScript runs only after the HTML document has been fully loaded, so all of the elements are available for manipulation. Next, we will define an array called flashcards. Each item in this array is an object containing a question and an answer. So for the first item, let's add a question. For example, asking for the capital of France. We also have answer. So this is our first item inside our array. Let's add more. Here, you may add any question you like. This is just an example. So this setup allows us to easily access each flashcard's content as we progress through the quiz. We will then initialize a variable called current card. So this variable called current card is used to stack of which flashcard we are currently viewing. This variable starts at 0, which corresponds to the first flashcard. Next, we select key elements from our HTML using document.getElementById. So we grab the flashcard container, the question element, and the answer element. To do so, let's first grab a flashcard, set it to variable of flashcard element. We will use the document get element ID. Earlier in our HTML, we set the IDs. We can actually use this or target this in our JavaScript. For this, we have the ID of flashcard. Next, let's get the question and document at element the ID and ID of question. And lastly, we have the answer element. Is equal to document element by ID value of answer. Oh, let's define a function play card. To do so, let's use the function keyword play card. This function updates the question and the answer elements with the content from the current flashcard. So let's get question element. And manipulate its text content equal to flashcards current card. That question. So let's target the answer element. Manipulate its text content property. Like I said, this function updates the question and answer elements with the content from the current flashcard. Also, we'll add flashcard element. That class list remove is flip. So the final or the last line of code we added removes the isFlip class from the flashcard element to ensure that it displays the question side when the question is first shown. To enable the flip feature, we add an event listener to the flip button. When the button is clicked, it toggles the isFlip class on the flashcard element, which triggers the flip animation to show the answer. To do so, let's target element by ID card. This button we set earlier. So like I mentioned earlier, this will enable flip feature. We will add an event listener to the flip button. So when the button is clicked, as specified here, it toggles the flip task on the flashcard element, which triggers the flip animation, show answer. Which one we set earlier in the CSS. Alright, so next, we will set up another event listener, the next card button. Same as what we did for the flip card button, for the next card button, we will get element by ID. Next one, which is at next dash card, and add an event listener. When this button is clicked, it will execute this function. The current card will add 1, increment by 1, then flashcards length. Alright, so here I said we set up another event listener for the next card button. When the next click, we increment the current card index as shown here in this part. We use the modulo operator to ensure that if the index exceeds the length of the flashcards array, it resets back to 0, allowing us to loop through the questions. And then finally, we will call the display card. We will call the display card function at the end of our script to initialize the first card when the app is shown here in our browser. And that's how the JavaScript code works in our Flashcard Quiz app. It allows the users to flip through the cards and navigate seamlessly through different questions, making learning interactive and fun. With everything in place, let's test our app, make sure how it works. Flip the card, see the answer, and then click next. Move on to the next question. And with this example, this is the capital of France. Flip the card, see the answer, which is Paris, and then I'll click next, see the next question. And there you have it. Built a simple flashcard quiz app using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This project is a great way to practice the basics of front-end development and create something interactive. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others. And make sure to check out more tutorials on OneCodeCamp YouTube channel. Thanks for watching and happy coding!